It's time to pick a side. The Border War is on the air with BG and TanMan.
All right, everybody, welcome in to another week of the Border War. I'm TanMan. I'm here with BG. We want to thank everyone for listening and downloading the show last week. I want to make sure if you are checking us out on one of the many platforms, if you're on Apple Podcast, give us 5 stars and leave us a review. Tell the world how awesome we are. Be sure to like our show on whatever platform you favor. Help us get the word out and utilize yourself as a weapon in the war against crappy local sports talk radio.
Because it's everywhere. It's not just here. I mean, everybody's got that.
It's especially
I think we probably win, though. I don't think anybody could be worse than us. Especially that new fantasy thing, man.
Oh God,
have you listened to that?
It's.
And don't get me wrong, there's a reason why we don't talk about fantasy football. Both of us play fantasy football, but there's only so much you can really say about fantasy football.
Well,
Most people just get the roster and follow down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think Field Yates and Matthew Berry pretty much have that covered. Like, I don't need a local guy.
That's a tough job, though.
To tell me about that.
You should know better than to even try that.
Yeah. BG, we're in some new digs. It finally came through. Friend of the show. Yep, finally comes through.
We are in an actual studio, and we'll leave it at that. So if our voices sound a little echoey or something today, we may change things up, so we can't listen to the show until after we do it. So my voice is definitely echoing in this room, but hopefully the mic's picking it up okay. We'll see how it sounds later.
It'll be fine. BG, let's get into it. Preseason football, week 3. We'll start with somebody who actually won a game this past weekend. The Carolina Panthers, 25-14 over the New England Patriots. BG, what did you think about the Panthers' performance in week 3 of the preseason against the Pats?
I think the good is that Cam Newton, again, looked, pretty accurate, definitely accurate for him. 11 for 17 for 142 yards against New England's first-team defense. Pretty vanilla scheme, probably,
right.
but still, he doesn't turn the ball over. No touchdowns, but not that big of a deal. The thing that sort of struck me as odd was the Panthers' sort of inability to run the football outside of giving it to Christian McCaffrey. I just don't think he's a viable every Sunday running back. I don't know how much to weigh into that. It's a preseason game, and it wasn't as if they were giving him the ball in direct handoffs. A lot of those plays are really passes, if we're being honest.
Well, I hope that McCaffrey is not quite the workhorse that they want to try to portray, because I've got C.J. Anderson on my fantasy team.
I was going to say, C.J. Anderson getting 2 carries in week 3 preseason game to me is a little light.
It makes you wonder how in the rotation he's really going to be.
Apparently not. Cameron Artis-Payne gets 6 carries, only averages 2.5 yards a carry. C.J. Anderson only gets 2 carries, averages 7.5. I did think it was good that Cam only ran the ball twice, and I've been a big proponent of that. To me, the Panthers are more successful when Cam stands in the pocket and plays quarterback, but. He did make some typically inaccurate Cam throws. One, I think it was late in the second quarter, just had a receiver wide open in the flat of the end zone and just chunks it 3 yards over the guy's head. From 8 yards out. But that's Cam, and you're going to get that.
One thing I thought that Panther fans should be really happy with, I thought the offensive line, for all the injuries and all the hits that they've taken, I thought that offensive line really held up well against the Patriots' first stringers. You got Taylor Moton, who played mostly on the right side for his career. He switched over to the left, filling in for Matt Khalil. Thought they did a fairly nice job given the circumstances that they're dealing with. The other one, I want to get your take on Shaq Thompson. He's a guy, he was a first-round pick a few years ago. Thomas Davis is suspended for the first 4 games for performance-enhancing drugs that he may or may not have taken. Shaq Thompson, first half, runs with the starters. He has 7 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. So I think Thompson could be in, he could be in for a major step up in the role if he can handle it, and it appears that he is.
Well, and he's going, if it's not this year, he's he's going to have a wide open door next year, obviously.
The eventual
right.
replacement.
Well, I mean, and I think this is the final year, right? That's been announced.
I think so.
I think that's true. So Thomas Davis came out and said before the season started this would be his last year, even before that suspension was announced. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think that's right.
To me, the best part of the night for the Panthers, the sweet uniforms, man. The blue tops and the black pants.
You like that?
Sharp.
Yeah.
I've always thought the Panthers had cool colors, and they never really got outside the box.
I've never, for some reason,
I love it.
I've never liked the black jerseys and the silver tops. It just, there's something about it.
I love that. I love it.
I don't know. The real question is, I forgot to even look. What was on the midfield stripe for the Panthers? Are they putting the Panthers logo
They
now?
will. I've heard they will eventually put the Panthers logo, I think, waiting for the regular season. So probably week 1 when Dallas goes.
So it will not be a Bitmoji of Jerry Richardson's face, though.
A giant foot, one of the two.
I see what you did there.
A couple things that would concern me as a potential Panther fan, or if I was a Panther fan.
Are you a potential Panthers fan?
Well,
are you in the market?
If they get rid of Cam Newton, I could be a Panthers fan.
Yeah, that's me.
The two things. One, Cam Newton's headfirst flip dive on the
my
39.
word.
What in the world is he thinking? I gotta get this this plane in smooth, and it's a preseason, and should I slide or what should I? Dude, you slide, man.
He landed square
on top of his
top.
head.
I mean, like the 12 o'clock crown of his head.
Well, you think
240 pounds
you
straight
think that
down.
there wasn't a stadium full of people holding their breath right there? Because that could have been really, really bad.
The dreaded tombstone pile driver.
Oh, man. And the other thing, DJ Moore, he had 75 yards. I think it was 4 catches in his first game. The last 2 preseason games, 2 targets, no catches for the first-round pick.
Invisible.
He has not been there. Meanwhile, you look around, and some of the other receivers are kind of starting to step up. So maybe DJ Moore.
We talked about the speeding ticket,
and that's what I was getting to. To me, I wonder if maybe all of the extra stuff and all the press with that speeding thing.
Here's my thing. In my world, there's no scenario where I end up driving that fast. So when I find out that somebody is driving that fast, I start plugging in blanks if maybe they're, doing a lot of nighttime stuff that I don't do, which is not what you want for a rookie. And let's be honest. I mean, Charlotte's a pretty easy town to stay out of trouble in. This is not New York City. Okay, so you have to go looking for that kind of stuff. So I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg here, or maybe it's a little of both. I'm not sure if it's the lifestyle decisions he was made that gives us a glimpse into that's causing the problems, or if what you're saying is right. If it's now, oh wow, I didn't have any idea I was under this kind of a microscope. Well, DJ, if that's the case, be glad you're in Charlotte, North Carolina, because there's a lot of places you could be if you'd have gotten pulled over driving that fast. People would be talking about it every day on Sports Talk for the next 2 years.
Well, one good thing for them is the problem with the Panthers for so long has been they've never had weapons. They didn't have a lot of depth at wide receiver. I don't think that they have a lot of stars at wide receiver necessarily, but now I think that they've got a lot of pretty good players that if it takes DJ a little bit to kind of get in the swing of things, and you've seen that with a lot of rookie receivers, it takes them a year or two before they really get going. If that's the case with DJ Moore, I think the Panthers, although they'd like to have him contribute right away as a first-round pick, I think they'll be okay if he takes a little time to get into it.
The bottom line for me with the Panthers remains, if Christian McCaffrey is going to carry the bulk of your offensive yardage, you're not convincing me there's not still problems at offensive line, because you're obviously scared to run it up the gut. You're going around the edges, and that will work until it's game planned. I mean, and McCaffrey's not durable enough to take those kind of hits 16 weeks in a row. So the Panthers are still going to have to prove to me that they have a legitimate running back threat out of the I formation, or at least out of the shotgun between the tackles for me to take them seriously as a playoff contender. And I just don't see it right now.
All right. Speaking of running backs, you guys signed a future Hall of Famer the other week. The Redskins, they fall to Denver 29-17 in their week 1 tune-up, so to speak. The bright spot to me, Adrian Peterson. 11 carries, 56 yards, right off of the couch, right off the street. You bring in AP at 32 years old, 34?
I don't think anybody doubts that AP is in prime shape. Last season he didn't show us much anywhere he was. He does have a chip on his shoulder. I still think this was not the smartest signing. I think there were guys you could have gotten 2 or 3 weeks before AP that would have been just as productive as he's going to be at this stage in his career. But like you said, not only was he a bright spot, I'll just go ahead and say it, man, he was the only bright spot.
With Adrian, going back to Adrian Peterson, he's not the 2,000-yard guy from a few years ago anymore. I mean, that guy is not here anymore. And I don't necessarily believe, after he got traded to Arizona, he burst out with a couple really monster games before he got hurt and kind of went away for the rest of the year. I don't even necessarily think you need that Adrian Peterson, but if you can get this guy, maybe a step, maybe even a step below what he gave you at 5 yards a carry the other night, but if you can get anything close to the guy you got the other night for 14 games, I think that's a major win and a major upgrade at that position for you guys.
And like I said, Chris Thompson is still capable of carrying the ball for 4.5 yards a carry. He's a good running back. He just has not proved durable. Much like I said about Christian McCaffrey, Chris Thompson's a similar size. He's not going to consistently take 15 to 20 solid NFL linebacker tackles per game and stay healthy. So AP can definitely soak up that kind of damage at this point in his career still.
The one thing Peterson never really had during all that run in Minnesota, he never had anybody to spell him. And I don't think he necessarily wanted anyone to spell him, but he was the workhorse guy. He was the 25-carry guy. Now, if you can give AP, 16 carries and let Chris Thompson or the rest of the committee handle another 8 to 10, and you can kind of spell Peterson, give him that break.
Well,
I think this signing is going to be much better than I thought it was.
I was about to say, it's odd because you're the one now saying it's okay, and I'm the Redskins fan, so let's pump the brakes here. This is one half of football against a good defense, maybe against a great defense, but it's one half of football and it's a preseason game. Let's move on to Alex Smith and they looked awful, out of sync. Now let's Jordan Reed didn't play. Let's get used to saying that. Jamison Crowder didn't play. So they're major weapons, and that's what Gruden said after the game. He goes, we run a timing offense when you have that many guys, But I think 3 for 8 for 33 yards still looks pretty bad.
You can make the case, well, they're not on. Dude, you've had a month to get on the same page, and if Reed's not playing or Crowder's not playing, whatever, man, you've had a month to get on the same page.
Let me ask you.
They had 4 series with the first team. 2 of the 4 series went 3 and out.
What does the name Darvin Kidsey do for you, TanMan? Does that ring a bell?
It elicits a small chuckle because I've never heard that name.
Darvin Kidsey, at 3 receptions for 50 yards and 1 touchdown, was the Redskins' leading receiver. And, of course, all of those yards in the second half with Kevin Hogan at quarterback, who scored the only points.
I wondered where he was.
Yeah, well, now you know. He is behind Colt McCoy on the depth chart in Washington, D.C. until at least September.
Well, I say he may be ahead of Colt McCoy. Didn't he break his thumb off his body and throw it into the stands or something like that?
I don't know that.
Pretty close, I think.
Yeah.
Just ripped it off.
Yeah. Fat Rob, 8 carries for 19 yards. Just other than Adrian Peterson, man, you're looking down this stat block. Paul Richardson had 2 catches for 31 yards. I guess that's okay. I don't know that that's really – I'm concerned. But again, I just picked them to finish last in the division last week, so color me surprised. I don't know. I really think that losing Geis it's a huge deal. And I don't think it's just a huge deal from a football standpoint. I think he was really poised to kind of become the heartbeat of that offense.
Yeah.
And now that's gone.
But you got AP?
Yay. Cowboys.
No, you're looking for sympathy. We were terrible.
Who's asking for sympathy?
Yeah. We were terrible on offense, yada, yada, yada. No, bro. No. The Cowboys. You want a good? We'll start with the good. I thought the first-team defense looked really strong. I thought Randy Gregory looks really good in there. He looks nice, getting back into form. They allowed the Dallas defense allowed one drive, one quote-unquote, real
Nothing
drive.
Nothing happened in the first half.
No, they allowed one drive where they allowed the field goal. The other field goal attempt was after a turnover. That's the story of the day. 8 turnovers between the the offense and special teams for the Cowboys. Just really not a lot good coming out of the other night.
Well, look, Dak played okay.
Dak didn't play. Dak did not. They set Dak, and they said they had, I think, 3 offensive linemen out, so they turned it over to Cooper Rush. Now, Cooper Rush
listed on the.
No, well, then that stat's incorrect.
Okay.
They turned it over to Cooper Rush, and I'm sure that name doesn't mean a whole lot to you as a Skins fan, but he's a young man who came on strong last year when Tony Romo was out in the preseason, and you remember Dak Prescott got a lot of. Well, Cooper Rush came in and did a nice job. They kind of stashed him away on the practice squad. A lot of Cowboy fans had a lot of high hopes for Rush, but he comes in the other night. He goes 11 for 17, 93 yards, running with the first team offense minus a few linemen. But just his performance this preseason, it just really seems like he's regressed a little bit from the past. And the question I wanted to pose to you.
Well, I don't know what to say because apparently the stat block I'm looking at on NFL.com is completely incorrect.
Well, look, there's not really any stats we're talking about.
One does wonder how that happened. Go ahead.
But one question I wanted to pose to you: Dak didn't play. Ezekiel Elliott didn't play. Now, they're not going to play in the 4th preseason game. So Elliott's going to go into week 1 without a preseason carry. You look across the league at the Rams. They're not playing Todd Gurley at all. Several other teams are.
Well, do you think the Redskins wish they hadn't played guys? I mean, that's what I'm. That's the reason this is happening.
Several teams are starting now. It seems like the kind of new thinking is we have these games. We have to play them. Well, we're just not going to play our guys. Is that something you think is going to spread throughout the league more and more to where teams are just going to go, I'm not playing this guy, period, at all?
It sounds like it already has.
I was going to say, it's creeping in, but do you think
it's like I said last week, man. You said, let's talk about some preseason action. And I'm like, there's no preseason action. There's only preseason injuries and avoiding preseason injuries. It feels like a 4, or if you're really unlucky, a 5-game highway of death that you're just trying to get down without having somebody pull off on an exit, man.
That's exactly
because
what it is.
It is a nerve-wracking. This is our 2nd preseason on the Border War here, and I've spent 2 years railing. I hate every minute of preseason football. You'll never convince me that our guy is as easily hurt in a regular season game. I don't know why. There's something about it.
If you go, you can find an article somewhere out there in the interwebs today. I read where Jerry Jones is pitching an 18-game schedule. He wants 2 preseason games. Now, that's nothing new. Number one, I think you'll get to that because teams are just going to start not playing these guys.
Right.
They're just not going to play them. But 2, he mentions that specifically where guys, they're not ready to go. Well, these injuries that you see in the preseason, he said the same thing you did. I don't think that they're going to happen like this at this rate during the regular season. I don't know if guys are going half speed and trying not to get hurt, and that's causing some of them to get hurt.
Or if it's just that lack of mental preparation, right? Where you're just like, we see it in high school football around here, right? Like you have these kids practice for like 3 days and then they have a jamboree. Football, like when you're a running back, and that's where we see a lot of these injuries. It's an instinctual position, but if you're just an 1/8 of a second kind of off in your rhythm, I think that can lead to injuries. I really do.
Yeah. Well, preseason week 4 is coming up. Hopefully, hopefully
the stat
guys will stay healthy
next week.
The NFL.com will get their stat guy back on the right track.
Dak
so BG
Prescott
doesn't get
played somewhere the other night. I don't know where. I mean, maybe
the stat guy was playing Madden and he played the game and actually
he just absolutely accidentally uploaded his stat block from Madden.
Last week we picked the rest of our division winners in the NFL. So we're here to give you our playoff picks. We held those back. BG, let's start off in the AFC. You had the Patriots winning the top seed, followed by the Steelers. Or excuse me, you had the Texans.
Yeah, I was about to say that doesn't sound
in
right.
the 2 spot. Give me your AFC winner.
I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers come out of the playoffs on top. And really it's because at this point, we overdo it with the New England thing. I think this might be the year that Brady looks good. Not
superhuman.
Not superhuman. I think he looks good this year, and I think it's – look, they're going to win 11 or 12 games minimum. They're going to win their division easily. That's not what I mean.
Division by 4 games.
But I think in a weird kind of way, the craziness that's going on in Pittsburgh right now. I mean, look, picture Mike Tomlin right now. What does his face look like in your mind?
Kind of surly.
Well, I picture him with his eyes bugging out of his head, like just. I think they feed off that stuff in a way. I don't think it's anything that Roethlisberger and his crew haven't seen before. I don't think the Patriots just go to Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl, and they didn't do it but people forget this is not like Alabama. You know, the Patriots didn't go to Super Bowl for about 8 years there in the middle. I mean, like it did happen. This is still a recent development. I don't think the Patriots make it back this year. I think I'm going to go with the Steelers.
I tend to agree with you. I came down to the Steelers and the Patriots just because until somebody proves to me that they can beat New England and actually do it, not trip over themselves like Jacksonville did, I feel silly not taking the Patriots. But I agree with what you said about Pittsburgh. A lot of people forget that this team went, 13-3 last year?
Yes.
And they throw the bad Jacksonville loss early in the season and then the loss to the Jaguars in the playoffs. And they let that overshadow the fact that this Pittsburgh team was knocking on the door last year. They were a top 2 team in the AFC last year.
No question.
This year, I think Pittsburgh's got one more run in them before they decide.
And that's what I think.
Part ways with Le'Veon Bell, and if Ben Roethlisberger decides to stay or not stay, whatever he's going to do, I think they've got one more run in them.
And I think they know that.
In the NFC,
which is what's going to make it possible for all this crap to end.
Yeah.
They're all going to get on board this train, and no one's going to be able to stop it.
Just look in the AFC. Jacksonville had New England dead to rights last year in the AFC title game and let it slip through their fingers. The Texans are a hot, trendy pick with Deshaun Watson. If Watson and J.J. Watt and the guys on the defense can stay healthy. So I think New England has got a little bit more competition. The AFC is a little deeper than it has been maybe in years past. I still don't think it's as deep in the NFC. I could see 7 teams coming out of the NFC.
No
and there's
question.
only 6 playoff spots. I had the Falcons as the top seed. I've got Atlanta knocking off the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC title game. And I've got Atlanta and Pittsburgh in the Super Bowl.
I'm going to go with the Rams. I think that
going all in on the Rams.
I really am. I think their defensive upgrades this season. I thought they were a 12-4 and a 13-3 team back in May, just coming into all this before the draft. Adding Ndamukong Suh in the middle of that line, I think their defense is going to be nasty. I think, and again, we all come back to this running back. The key is that Todd Gurley has to stay healthy.
He does. The thing that scares me about the Rams, and Louis Riddick made a great point this morning on ESPN. He was in Philadelphia. You remember a few years ago, I think it was 2012, 2013, when they felt like Philadelphia was
Chip Kelly era. Is that right?
Can't remember. This might have been right before Chip Kelly, but
it didn't last long.
They were they felt like they were kind of right on the cusp.
Yeah.
And then they go out and they sign. You remember the Dream Team where they brought in Nnamdi Asomugha and they brought in these guys and it just all blew up in their face. It was all kinds of you look at the Rams. They signed Ndamukong Suh, who is a unbelievable defensive lineman. He's kind of had a little trouble everywhere he's gone. Aqib Talib from Denver, same kind of. I mean, they just got a lot of. It's a lot of big personality. Marcus Peters from Kansas City, a lot of big personalities in that locker room. If they can all rein it in and stay on the same page, then they can do everything you're saying that they can do. But I don't know, man. I mean, it's a gamble.
And they are also, let's be honest, in a division that is falling apart.
It's
everybody else in that division. Yeah. They're going to go 6-0 against that division, which makes it. Let's be honest, that makes it a heck of a lot easier to make it to make it far in the playoffs
All right.
because you got to get that home field advantage.
All right, so you got the Rams and the Steelers in the Super Bowl. BG, who's hoisting the Lombardi Trophy?
I'm taking the Rams.
Okay.
I am taking the Rams over the Steelers because I think if they make it that far, I'm going to go in on the Rams this year. But I think that would be a really fun game.
All right,
I think that'd be a really fun game.
And I will take the Atlanta Falcons. I think the Falcons, adding Calvin Ridley last year, their offense didn't quite flow
and I am
the way
very
it did.
high on the Falcons too. We've talked about this, man. A lot of people don't even think they're making the playoffs. I hear it over and over, and I don't get that. I don't get it.
I know the Super Bowl host curse is a real thing. We saw it with Minnesota last year. But I think the fact they were the first team, they played in the first Super Bowl that went to overtime when they lost to New England. I think they're going to be the first team to host and play in a Super Bowl. And I've got the Atlanta Falcons winning it for the first time over Pittsburgh. And that brings me to my MVP pick. Matt Ryan is going to win it for the second time in 3 years. He's going to have a big year. I love what they've done with the offense. I love the addition of Calvin Ridley opposite Julio Jones to take that pressure off. Big year for Matt Ryan and the Falcons.
In a shocking move, I'm going to go with Todd Gurley. I know that comes out of left field because I haven't said anything really good about the Rams.
Really?
But,
Tell me what you think about Todd Gurley and the Rams. All right, so you got Todd Gurley. I've got Matt Ryan for the MVP. Should be a fun season, man. I'm ready to get started with it.
Aaron Rodgers remains, of course, the Vegas favorite to win MVP, and so we're probably both wrong. They didn't build all those big, tall buildings because guys like that, guys like us outsmart them very often.
Well, I mean, look, you can almost take it to the bank that if we say something's going to happen, then Aaron Rodgers is going to be your MVP. Because if we say Matt Ryan and Todd Gurley, then it's going to be Aaron Rodgers.
Now, let's remember, too, there were people making the argument, national media people, that Deshaun Watson should have gotten Rookie of the Year votes last year, even though he only played in 5 games. If he plays the way he played for 16 games, he's going to be right there, too.
He's going to have to do it with his arm. He had a lot of exciting plays with his feet, but I've always operated under the assumption that if you give defensive coordinators 5 months where they don't do anything but sit in a dark room and watch film on they're going to find a way to take away what you do best.
And Deshaun he's a gifted athlete, no question, and I know that Cam is one of his mentors, but he needs to recognize, and I hope he does, that he is not playing in Cam Newton's body, and he does not need to emulate that style of play. Cam Newton has avoided a lot of injuries because he is a 255-pound Mack truck.
Deshaun Watson is not that.
He is not.
He is not. He's a heck of an athlete, but he's not physically built.
Deshaun Watson needs to watch Russell Wilson film, not Cam Newton film, because Russell Wilson
I agree.
cannot be hit clean. He is made of grease.
I agree. Well, BG, we got to move on. Make sure we get everything in on this one. College football playoff pick time. I don't think that the 1 and the 2 should be any shocker here. I'm going to take Clemson because I don't think that they're going to lose at all in the regular season. Clemson will be my 1.
You're not buying the at BC nonsense.
No. They're going to have a stumble somewhere along the way where they let somebody hang around, but I just think that defense is going to be entirely too much for basically everybody in the ACC. Give me Alabama 2 with an asterisk because I think Alabama's going to lose a game somewhere along the way, but they're still going to get that 2 spot. In 3, I've got Notre Dame. The Irish, they've got 5 ranked teams on their schedule. None of them are in that top echelon. They're all between 14 and 20 as they sit right now. They've got a lot of questions on the offense. Brandon Wimbush, he regressed as a passer, completed less than 50% of his passes last year, but they returned a ton on defense. This will be the best defense they've had since Manti Te'o's era. They are going to be favored to win every game. If they can avoid the letdown games, get out of there with less than, with 1 loss or less, the committee's going to put Notre Dame in. So I've got Notre Dame at 3, and I've got Wisconsin at 4. A lot of talk about the Big Ten getting maybe 2 teams in, but I think that Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan State, they're all in the same half. They're all going to eat one another. Not to mention, Ohio State's got a game against TCU in Dallas, Game 3, which is the last game that Urban Meyer is going to be suspended. If they drop that one, then you'd have to assume they'd have to run the table. And I think with their schedule, eating those guys up, that half of the Big Ten is gonna chew on one another.
I definitely think you're right. Wisconsin has a really good crack
that
at it.
leaves
And a lot of people think they got sort of gypped before.
Yeah.
So that
leaves
comes
with
into play.
Wisconsin. They got 2 games they've got to win, at Michigan State and at Penn State in November. As long as they win one of them, I think they'll run the table the rest of the way, and they'll get a match in the title game, maybe against Penn State again. Who knows? But I'll take Wisconsin as my 4.
No Big 12.
No Big 12.
Shocker.
Well,
Again.
they messed up. They're playing.
They know they messed up.
They're playing 9 conference games. That's a big mistake for that team.
I've got Ohio State as my 4 seed.
Mm-hmm.
I do agree with you. I think it's a tougher road than it was, but I sort of named them really early, about 5 or 6 weeks ago when we did the show. I'm not going to change that up. And it's not crazy. It's not crazy to put Ohio State. I mean, there's not that many people that make it. In my 3 seed, I've got the Auburn Tigers. I think they beat Washington this weekend in the Georgia Dome. And that eliminates the Huskies from this discussion, and it puts Auburn right in it. The only thing I think Auburn loses is the Iron Bowl. They obviously don't play Alabama twice because they're in the same division. And I think that one loss comes before Georgia loses to Alabama the week after that. So I think that puts Auburn in. In my 2 seed, I've got Clemson. And my 1 seed, I'll take Alabama. So it's boring, man. It's just I don't know what to do, but I'm trying to be right here.
Yeah, I mean,
and let's be honest. I mean, who cares whether Alabama's 1 and Clemson's 2? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I think that Alabama and Clemson are going to play each other in the national title game. You think Alabama and Clemson are going to play in the national title game? And if I was a Clemson fan, I'd be happy. I'm obviously not happy about that. I'm a South Carolina fan, but I'm beginning to wonder how happy the entire college football world is about either of these teams playing each other. It doesn't feel like a rivalry to me. There's no bad blood between them. I just feel like we've talked about this in the NBA. It feels predictable.
I'll say this: you bring up the point with the NBA, and of course we've had 4 years of Golden State and Cleveland in the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
Minus Draymond Green kicking the ding-ding a couple years ago, that would have been 4 straight Golden State in the ding-ding.
Yeah.
That would have been 4 straight Warriors wins. The last 2 years haven't felt overly compelling, I don't think.
No.
With Clemson and Alabama, I think it is. I mean, it is still competitive. Now,
It's good football.
Last year's game, score-wise, wasn't anywhere near what the previous 2 years had been. But I don't think that you ever felt
it also wasn't for the title.
No, it wasn't for the title. But watching that Sugar Bowl last year, at least I didn't get the feeling that, I didn't think that Clemson was necessarily in control of the game, but I didn't feel like they were out of the game, until a little bit later on in the second half. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think it's a little more interesting than what the NBA Finals has been the last few years, and I do think it's a rivalry. Maybe it's just between those 2 fan bases, but.
But that being said,
I'm kind of tired of seeing it.
Don't you wish it was 2 other teams?
I'm kind of tired of seeing it. And if one of them gives the committee the opportunity, if they open the door to let the committee pick someone else and there's another reasonable candidate, I think they would. But I just don't see it this year. I don't see any way that Alabama and Clemson.
Neither one of them is going to lose more than 1 game, and both of them make it in 1 game.
I think now, if I'm going to pick one, and if I have to pick one that's out, I'm taking Alabama out. Just because the Clemson schedule, I don't think that there's anybody on there that is going to beat them. I don't see any way they lose 2 games.
No.
I think Alabama will lose to somebody eventually, and they will finish with 2 losses because I'm going to take the Clemson Tigers to knock them off in the national title game.
And I will never take the Clemson Tigers to win a national title game. I don't care. I don't care if they're.
You can't even pretend to be.
Fair
about
it. No, not even if they were playing the South Carolina Gamecocks would I take the Clemson Tigers to win a national title game. So roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Plus, I'm right. I'm not excited about it.
So says you. You think you're right a lot.
It's a burden.
All right, another football season is here. That brings us to another TanMan dominated picks list.
You won by 1 game.
Add 9 more. I think I won by like 8 or 9 games.
Because I became aggressive. I remember now.
Started picking crazy things. Well, in an effort to try and stay in our box.
In the box.
As we've been told.
Because look, the bottom line is this. Picking Clemson and Alabama and stuff head-to-head just to pick who wins is boring.
Yeah.
So we're going to throw the spread into it.
All right, the first one on the list, the Chanticleers, Coastal Carolina, going down to Columbia on Saturday. The Gamecocks, 29.5-point favorites. Coastal Carolina, not very good. I think South Carolina's going to have a big offense. I'll lay the 29.5. I think they beat them by more than that.
You are a fool, sir. I will take the Chanticleers plus the points all day. Don't ever pick South Carolina in opening week against the spread. I can tell that you have not been a Gamecock fan your whole life.
Yeah, they
will beat them by 28.5 points.
Here's one. Furman at Clemson. Now, ESPN,
no official spread, right?
I couldn't find one, but I did find some offshore. You have to go through some kind of Tor browser to get a spread, and
Homeland Security is not going to show up here in a minute and knock on the door.
As I say, if they come in one door, I'll go out the other. I found one, and you know what the finals? You know what the score they said that it was predicting? It was like 42-0. And I looked at it and I said, "Ain't no way, homie, 42."
Yeah, that seems low.
There's no way. So we created our own spread. We're going to give Furman 56. And I'm gonna take the Clemson Tigers, and I'm giving the 56 because I think they're going to lay almost 70 on them. They're going to let Trevor Lawrence make sure he gets enough run in there. And Furman's not scoring on that defense.
Trevor Lawrence can play 2 quarters of football in this game he wants. It won't even count because he can play in 4 games. Give me the Tigers.
Got BG down for the Paladins. Down in Atlanta, Washington at number 9, Auburn. Auburn 2.5-point favorites. This has been being touted as the game of the week. These are your Auburn Tigers. You're in on them, BG. Tell me what you think.
Auburn beats them by more than 2.5 points. I think it's closer to 10.
I agree.
I think it'll be close going into the second half. I don't. Maybe I'm too much of an SEC homer. I can admit it, but I just don't see this. But I'll tell you what, man. If Washington comes out of this game with a win,
I'll tell you what.
That will be a huge.
Scratch it. I'll take Washington.
Notch in the belt.
They've got to win this because nobody hardly ever runs the table. If you notice in the Pac-12,
right?
This is their bell cow. This is what they're hanging their season on as a conference. Is this game down in Atlanta? I just have a hard time thinking that after week 1, the Pac-12 is just going to be out of the playoff. Give me Washington.
Yeah.
They're going to knock off Auburn. Tennessee against West Virginia up in Charlotte. The Mountaineers, 9.5 points. Jeremy Pruitt taking over. First game against West Virginia. Maybe a Big 12 championship contender. Give me Tennessee in the 9.5. I think West Virginia wins, but I'll take Tennessee in the points in this one.
I disagree, man. I think West Virginia buries Tennessee in this game. I think they beat the brakes off of them. West Virginia's offense will not punt in this game. Tennessee's going to have a better season, but West Virginia is a whole different thing, man. That offense it's going to be clicking on all gears off the bat.
So you're buying into the Mountaineers as a Big 12 champ?
I don't know about that, but I mean, what does it matter? All we care about is the 4 teams in the playoff now. That's the world we live in. Winning a conference championship in the Big 12, I don't even know if you get a flag for that anymore.
My Tar Heels heading out west, a game that they should have won last year. They're giving the Bears the return game, North Carolina at Cal. The Bears favored by 7. I'm going to take Cal in the points. Carolina going all the way across the country.
That's the same thing
quarterback.
I think this is probably more like a 10-point win for the are they the Golden Bears?
Golden Bears.
Is there a such thing as a golden bear? Sounds like a cereal mascot.
I don't know.
What's the name of the bear? The sugar? No, that's a frog.
Honey Smacks. That's a frog.
But there's a bear. Sugar Crisp.
I don't know.
There's a bear with a blue sweater on. Somebody tweet us and tell us who I'm talking. It's a brown bear.
A brown cereal bear with blue sweaters.
Some kind of.
He's not a frog.
No, because he's a bear.
Right.
Jeez.
I'm
gonna take Cal on the points there.
Yeah, I want to take
Cal
North Carolina.
minus the points. I should say.
Cal's not very good either, but
But
there's just too much going on.
That doesn't feel like a good.
The perennial ESPN favorite. We get told every year, "Oh, this team is awesome. They're ready to make a playoff push." And every year they fall short. The Michigan Wolverines renewing their rivalry.
I was about to say, I'm glad to see these two. These two schools need to play every year. Well, growing up, this was one of those games that would make me stop flipping channels even before I really became a sports fan.
Notre Dame went chasing the almighty dollar, and it kind of came at the expense of some of these rivalries that they had.
Yeah, this one should have never been gotten.
The Wolverines going to South Bend to open the season. That's that doesn't even sound right to open the season. But Notre Dame
this needs to be a cold weather game, man.
The Irish at home, they're a 1-point favorite, basically a pick 'em. I've got Notre Dame in the playoff, and so for them to be in the playoff, it's got to be because they start off with a win here. Give me the Irish, and of course I'm going to give the 1 point because they can't win by half a point.
I actually think Michigan wins this football game. So clearly I will be taking them in this situation.
Here's an interesting one. Louisville versus Alabama. This one's down in Orlando. The Tide, 24-point favorites. A lot of talk, a lot of chatter coming out of those Cardinal receivers about how they're going to be able to match up with anything that Alabama can throw at them. Alabama typically doesn't blow people out of the water necessarily. They just kind of do enough. What are they going to do at quarterback? I don't know. The 24 points, that's a big number, BG.
It is. I don't know. Does anybody really know what to think about Louisville? And I don't know how up for this game Alabama gets.
And that's the thing. To me, I made this point last week. If they're 8 and if they were just kind of okay with Lamar Jackson, now that Lamar Jackson's not there,
right?
I just have a hard time believing that they're going to be a threat to really beat any really good team. I'll take Alabama. I'll give the 24.
I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to take Alabama, but I don't feel great about it because I don't know. And Nick Saban doesn't feel like he needs to make a statement. He just wants to win the game. No. He just wants to win the game.
It's one close to my heart. Akron at Nebraska. Scott Frost's first game.
One
back
of your
Lincoln.
Plethora of teams that you're a fan of.
I grew up but died in the red of the Cornhuskers. Nebraska.
God, that makes no sense at all. Just continue, but whatever. I don't even know.
Tommy Frazier, man.
I like Tommy Frazier. That's great.
The Huskers, 24-point favorites, another big number. They're going to cover this, and they're going to cover it big. That place is fired up for Scott Frost to be back home. Give me Nebraska. I'll give you the 24 all day long.
I'm taking the Cornhuskers, too.
Here's one. Hopefully, we want to avoid some major injuries. Hopefully, they've got that field up there in D.C. in good shape. We don't want anyone getting hurt. Miami.
Shut up and pick the game.
Miami and LSU. LSU, a 3-point favorite on that chopped up, torn up field up there in Virginia where the Redskins play. What?
Just keep going.
What? Is it not chopped up?
Yes, it's an awful field. Just quit it.
Miami. I'll take Miami. I'll give the 3 points. Give me the Hurricanes.
The Miami Hurricanes win this game, man. LSU is not going to have a good season, and it starts Saturday.
And finally, Labor Day. I hate the ACC does this. They put a conference game. First, I hate it. I hate it when you guys have to play Vanderbilt the first week. It's stupid.
Yeah, that does happen.
Virginia Tech at Florida State. Labor Day night. The Noles -7. DeAndre Francois named starting quarterback. So that tall, skinny guy that Florida State had last year is back on the bench where he probably belongs. Yeah. Give me Virginia Tech going down to Florida State and getting the win.
I agree with you. I think Tech wins this game. I think Florida State is in the same boat as LSU. I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen in Tallahassee this year. I don't think it's going to be all that impressive.
No. All right. That's it for this one. Tune in. Make sure you click the next link. We're going to be talking some Braves baseball. We're going to look ahead at the playoff picture and see where the Braves stand. Did they make the right move by not making a move? We'll talk about it. Make sure you like us and share us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Email your picks in. Tweet us your picks in. We'll have that list up on Facebook and Twitter both, so get those in. Get involved with us. And once you get caught up here, head over to Stadium Scene. Go find you a podcast to check out. A lot of cool stuff. That's it.